Jurassic World the game. Great. Well, really, it's weird, but Jurassic World the game is a really good game, I should say. I do think that there is some issues with it, but mostly it's a mix. When I mean a mix, I mean that this game can be like one of the best games if you played before the weird stuff happened. You see, Jurassic World the game, everything was unlockable. Yeah, you miss a tournament, that was the only thing that you couldn't unlock. But nowadays, you can only get creatures through events. There were only about 5 creatures that you couldn't unlock, not including hybrids. But now, it only evolved into tournaments, and legendaries, and then hybrids. Which was very bad, due to the fact that, if you don't have Indominus Rex at least, you're screwed. Which means you can't play a tournament realistically up to level 65 to 70. Because at level 70 you can get a tournament creature that's been available for years. And in my opinion, Jurassic World the game has a lot to offer. There's a lot of creatures though. But yeah, that was like but really I do think that Jurassic World the game is really good. But we should probably get into it. So why am I already mentioning the good stuff? Well, that's because I'm going to be basing everything I talk about on this stuff. So most of the stuff you'll hear me talk about will most likely relate to herbivores, carnivores, from tournaments and pterosaurs and amphibians, and even hybrids. And super hybrids, because, yeah. Every super hybrid is gettable. Most of them, at least. The only one I really think you can't really get is the... Most of them you can get, but... Some of them, eh. But, here's the thing. Sometimes it's not worth it at all going for Jurassic World, the game. But we should probably get into the first segment, which is going to be the most common faction, we'll call it, in the entire game. Which, I don't know why, because these guys you'll see everywhere. And of course, I'm talking about carnivores. So, let's get into it. So, the carnivores. The most common creatures to get added, because there's way too many of them, and then when they get a hybrid, they don't become the herbivore. They are the carnivore. These things are always going to be seen somewhere. In tournaments, you're going to see a carnivore. Literally one of the first creatures you unlock. The first creature, actually, in Stage 1 you unlock is a carnivore. So really, yeah. So why am I devoting carnivores into this? Well, that's because every single tournament is going to be a carnivore. Most likely. Sometimes it's going to be a herbivore. And then very rarely it's an amphibian or a pterosaur. Like, it is a miracle if you can get a pterosaur to be found. I do think that it is weird that the fact that there's a lot of carnivores, like, as you can see in the footage, one of the most powerful creatures is a Udon, which is a carnivore. Guess what? The creatures that cost more than the Udon are the Triceratops, not strong enough. Armata, I think, is stronger. But Pachyrhinus and Indoraptor are the strongest. The strongest creatures in the game are literally carnivores. I believe the top 3 are carnivores. What is your first hybrid going to be? A Langosaur, what is he, a carnivore? So really, the carnivores are your most important creatures, necessarily. And when you see an amphibian, your team, necessarily, if it's all carnivores, is screwed. Especially if that amphibian is really strong. So, definitely pay attention to that. But, yeah, I do think that the carnivores should be taken down a little bit. Thank God that I think the last update, this update was a herbivore. But, I don't even know when they're going to do a pterosaur. But, yeah. So anyway, the next section is going to be the, you know what? Let the screen just show you. The other guys. The other guys. When I'm talking about those, I'm talking about the pterosaurs, amphibians, herbivores, cenozoics, and aquatics. Herbivores are the second most used creature, or have factioned. It is the second most factioned. It has the most. It is the second place for the most dinosaurs in that faction. And I think amphibians are above pterosaurs, which pterosaurs are underrated. Like, we have Dimorphodon, like, that thing is a menace. Even though it does, like, less damage than Indoraptor immediately, but whatever. But that's not the point. So, really, the other guys I'm talking about are amphibians and pterosaurs. And the Cenozoics and aquatics. Amphibians are going to be used a lot, just because that carnivores are all over the meta. But pterosaurs are... you don't really see them much. We'll put it that way. You don't see much pterosaurs. Like, and then there's pterosaurs that are creeping into my top 5 on my list. I'm not showing my list as my screen's cracked, first of all. And the game keeps crashing, so I'm not letting this crash during footage. But, yeah. And honestly, in one of the Gaming Beaver's videos, it was his 501st episode of Jurassic World the Game, he done an amphibian that was worse on level 40 than a level 10, again, pterosaur. It was a super hybrid on a super hybrid. That goes to show that the pterosaurs are very underused, we'll say. And most of the time, you see a pterosaur, you should never get overconfident, because those things can kick your butt. And this is Chopfenry, so we're not saying the other word. But, I do think that the Cenozoics and aquatics are pretty much entirely useless. Yep, they're useless. Just never use them. Like, no one uses them. I find myself rarely using them. Now, the only time I really use Cenozoics and aquatics are for missions. The only aquatic I seem like people actually want to get is the Mosasaurus. And then once you do that, just get Dunkleosteus to level, what, 40, and then get that hybrid. And then there you go. You completed your aquatic mission, because then you got the best aquatic hybrid in the game. And then Cenozoics are out here getting, like, so many hybrids when no one uses them. Why do you think they're going for purely land? because land is the way to go, because no one cares about the Cenozoics and aquatics. Yeah, they're cool, but they're like scums. And now we can finally get into the part that makes more sense. The combat. And oh boy. Just get ready. The combat. We can all agree that the combat of Jurassic World, the game, is pretty revolutionary for a dinosaur game. Unlike Jurassic World Alive, which is pretty much just Pokemon Go, but with dinosaurs. As Dame Beaver called it, Jurassic Go. It is a strategy game. Now, Jurassic Park the Builder was also a strategy game, but I think Jurassic World the game outdid Jurassic Park Builder. Jurassic Park Builder? That was one, yeah. Its combat is so simple that you're gonna win every time if you do this. Reserve every time first. You always want to reserve on the first attempt, and if you're player 2, reserve twice. This will always think that if the enemy can one-shot you, they have to go for a full-out attack. Which means that if your creature is stronger than that creature, then this will easily seal your win. But there's one problem with the combat. When you're fighting a hybrid, you are pretty much dead. And it's flawed in a way that since everything's pretty much AI, including the tournaments, which I don't think they should be really called tournaments, it should be called Rise to the Top as your fights get harder. That's what it should be called. It should just be called Climb up the rank. There you go. But the only reason why it's kind of unfair is that the bot always will try to do the same thing. It's also flawed due to the fact that you kind of get bored of it, because there's always that one win strategy. Bait the bots. Do one reserve. Bait them. Bait, reserve. It's the same combat over and over. And I do think that if the combat is better, it should be changed. A little bit. The block it also should mean about the math. The math is very, very bad. Because they don't multiply, clearly. 37 times 37 isn't 89. That's not 37 plus 37 is not 89. 102 plus times 102, times 2 isn't 456. Like, the damage when you add something to it, you're supposed to add it. They're multiplying it. They're not doing it correctly. But, yes. Yeah, that's about the combat. But now, should we get into the main deal? The actual... I'm going to say it one more time because I missed it. The actual... gameplay. Ah, yes, the actual, literal gameplay. As you can see here, it's just feed dinosaurs, level them up, fuse them up to level 40, and then get a hybrid, and then use them to fight. But then there's also other gameplay, is build your own park. Let's be real, who actually uses the parts? the only thing you should really do is use the stuff you get, like limited time decorations. That's all people really do. And pretty much, it's weird how it is. The limited decorations are pretty good. But also, the gameplay of Jurassic World the game is really simple when you look at it. Because all it is just feed dinosaurs, unlock new dinosaurs, you feed that dinosaur, unlock hybrid, and fight. And pretty much the whole gameplay is that every month, about every month, or two, there's a season pass. Kind of like Jurassic World Alive. But the season pass is interesting. You don't unlock the creature. So, if you don't get the creature, if you don't have the premium pass, and you have to go all the way to the official end, not the end not like the end where you get the patch and stuff. I'm literally talking about the whole end part. End is insane. Okay? You have to get over 20,000, I think it is. And yeah. Just don't let me explode with my microphone. But really, the gameplay is really weird. Because as you can see here, that hurts. It hurts when that happens. Another thing is bugs, which, oh my god. Bugs are like your thing if you want to get the dinosaur quick enough. Bugs is what you need. And if you are out of food, good luck. Because if you're, unlike if you're the gaming beaver, as you can see on screen now, you're gonna have like only 6 million food. And not much DNA. And you're probably gonna have a lot of coin, but everything else you're not gonna have much of. So really the gameplay is a really grindy mess, and it's just a chore pretty much, just to do stuff. But yeah, that's about it for the gameplay. So I guess we should just wrap this all up so I can go home finally. In conclusion, Jurassic World the game is, for how good it is, and very addicting it is for a simulator game, I think it did its job well. For replacing Jurassic Park Builder, and the combat was more better, there was way more variety of dinosaurs, and the game was less payable, we'll say. You still got paid to get a level 40 Season Pass creature, but really, those creatures sucked half the time. And plus, you're better off just waiting for them to come back into a tournament. That's probably your better option, even though it can take up from 6 months to almost 3 years. But Jurassic World the game, I think for what it is a great game. I think the gameplay is fine, I think the combat's good, I think the creatures are fine. The one thing that sucks though, is that, well, you play now, you missed out on so many other things. But I think the way you can get those things that you missed on is the Clash of Titans, which lasts, I believe, for 30 days. So you can do that and unlock a creature you want. So then you can get a hybrid. So for example, if you want the Chromospinus, you can wait for Parasaurolophus Gen 2 and Spinosaurus Gen 2 to show up. So I do think that a lot of the things that Jurassic World the game has a problem is being resolved when you reach a certain level. And you should also believe that everything is changing. The one thing is that I think it just needs some more improvements on its actual main point. Use dinosaurs, fuse them, fight. I think they should try to change that a little bit, but overall it's good. So I give it 9 Owen Grady's out of 10. That's all, folks. Have a great day.